It was 3 in the morning and the rain was drilling the windshield like fingernails tapping a glass. Have you ever picked up someone who was being tailed by the unknown? Welcome to the Unknown Files X, where real stories, dark mysteries and hidden truths are told. Tonight I'm telling you my story because I was there. I saw it happen and I couldn't stop it. This is the night I learned that some toxic relationships don't end when you walk away. Some of them follow you home. I've been driving for this rideshare company for about 4 years now. Night shifts mostly. There's something about the darkness that brings out the truth in people. Daytime passengers hide behind their phones. But at 3 in the morning? That's when the masks come off. That's when you see who people really are. It was during the November cold. The kind of wet cold that gets into your bones and stays there. I was parked outside this 24-hour diner on the edge of town. The kind of place where the coffee is always burnt and the pie is always suspicious. My phone buzzed. Pickup request 5 minutes away to some apartment complex I'd never heard of. I pulled up to this building that looked like it had given up on itself years ago. Peeling paint. Broken security gate hanging open like a yawning mouth. And there she was. Standing under the one working street light was a woman. Maybe 5'2". Blonde hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She was wearing this oversized denim jacket that swallowed her whole. And she was holding a duffel bag like it contained everything she owned in the world. She got in the back seat and didn't say hello. Didn't confirm her name. She just collapsed into the seat like someone had cut her strings. I turned around to verify the destination. We are heading to the bus station? 3-hour drive, I asked, because that's a pricey ride for me. That's when I saw her face. Have you ever seen someone who looks like they've been erased? Like someone took an eraser to clean their spirit? That's what Sarah looked like. Her eyes were like these hollow things. She had a bruise on her jaw. Fresh purple blooming into yellow. And she was holding her left arm close to her body. I didn't ask because you learn to mind your business in this job. People tell you what they want you to know. But as I pulled away from that curb, I noticed something in my rearview mirror was a truck. Black and tinted windows. It was parked across the street. Engine running and exhaust curling into the cold air like a finger beckoning. I didn't think much of it at first. But as I turned onto the main road and those headlights followed. They maintained distance. Always 3 cars back. Sarah also noticed. I saw her stiffen in the back seat. Saw her head turn slightly. She didn't say anything but her hand found the door handle and gripped it tight. Friend of yours? I asked, but she didn't answer. Drive faster, please, she shouted. So I did. I've watched enough true crime documentaries to know what a car tail looks like. These weren't amateurs. Whoever was driving that truck knew how to follow someone without being noticed. They stayed in my blind spots as I changed lanes. Sarah started talking not to me but to herself, muttering. He said he'd find me no matter where I went. He said I belonged to him. Over and over like a curse? I asked for her name. She said Sarah. Then I asked if she needed help. Her answer was no one can help me from this. That's when she told me about Marcus. They met 5 years ago. She was 22 working at a coffee shop. He came in every day. Ordered the same thing. Black coffee and 2 sugars. Always left a $20 tip. Charmed her with persistence, attention, and with what she called the spotlight. He made me feel like I was the only person in the world. Her voice was flat and detached. Like she was reading from a script she'd memorized, but she no longer believed in it. For 6 months it was perfect. And then it was management. That was his word for it. Managing her wardrobe, her friends, her social media, and her bank account. At first she thought it was love and protection. He didn't want other men looking at her. Didn't want her spending money foolishly. And also didn't want her to be influenced by friends who didn't understand their relationship. But management became monitoring. He installed cameras in their apartment. Not hidden but right there on the walls. Said it was for security, for her safety. He tracked her phone. Said it was because he was worried and because he cared. Then came the rules and the long list. She described them in detail. Pages and pages of instructions. How to dress. How to speak. How to cook his meals. What time to be home. What time to be in bed. What time to be awake. What she was allowed to watch and what she was allowed to read. I wasn't a person anymore, she said. I was a project. His project. And I was failing. Even if he hit her, she said, she is still the one to apologize. She apologized for making him angry. For not following the rules correctly and for being difficult. For being herself. She showed me her phone and pulled up her photo gallery. Hundreds of photos and selfies. These were photos she was required to send him every hour for proof of location. Proof of activity. Proof she wasn't cheating and proof she wasn't lying. The last was a selfie video from 3 hours ago of her face. With tears streaming down in her timid voice, "I'm sorry. I'll do better." That's what she said on the video. I looked in the mirror again. The truck was still behind. But now it was closer. "He knows," Sarah said. Her voice was barely audible. "He always knows." I was doing 70 in a 55. The highway was empty. Just us and them. The truck's high beams flicked on blinding aggressively. Then they flashed 3 times. A signal perhaps to scare me in pulling over. Sarah started shaking. Full body tremors. She curled into herself, making herself small and making herself invisible. But you can't hide in a car, and you can't hide also from someone who has spent 5 years studying your patterns, your fears and your escape routes. The truck accelerated, pulled alongside us, a tinted window rolling down. I caught a glimpse of the man, perhaps in his 40s, clean-shaven and a baseball cap on. He wasn't looking at me, but was looking at Sarah. And he was smiling. Not a mad smile. Not a cruel smile, but a patient smile. The smile of someone who had played this game before. Sarah screamed out from pure terror. She tried to open her door while we were doing 70 miles per hour. I reached back immediately, grabbed her arm and stopped her. But that moment of contact, I felt something under her sleeve. Thick bandages, wrapped around her wrist. "Sarah?" I said, keeping my voice steady and keeping my eyes on the road. "What's under the bandages?" She didn't answer. The truck swerved hard into our lane. I jerked the wheel and nearly lost control. Sarah slammed into the door. The truck pulled back and surged forward again. Bumper to bumper now and close enough to touch. "He's going to kill us both," Sarah said. And she said it calmly, like this was inevitable. And like this was the ending she'd always known was coming. I made a decision and took the next exit. And I was very fast about it. The car skidded on wet pavement and Marcus' truck followed. I know these roads very well because I grew up here. We took series of turns. Residential neighborhoods was dark and quiet, with people sleeping through someone else's nightmare. I pulled into the parking lot of a 24-hour grocery store, bright lights with security cameras and lots of witnesses. The truck stopped at the entrance, waiting. I turned and faced Sarah fully. For the first time, I really looked at her. "Are those bandages?" I said. "Show me." She hesitated at first, then pulled up her sleeve. This was not bandages, but casts on both wrists. It was fresh. The kind you get when someone has tried to remove your hands or when you've tried to remove yourself from the world. "Did he break them?" I asked. "Last week he told me if I couldn't use my hands right, I shouldn't use them at all. Then he drove me to the hospital. Told them I fell, and I agreed because that's what I always do. I waited for it to get better, but it doesn't get better. Rather, it gets managed." The truck was still there. Marcus was still there, and he wasn't getting out. He didn't need to because he knew something I was just beginning to understand. This wasn't about catching her. This was about reminding her that she could never escape even in a stranger's car. Even on a highway in the middle of the night? And even with broken wrists and a duffel bag full of hope, she was still his. She would always be his. I need to pause here for a second because if you've watched to this extent, I need you to do something right now. If this story is making your skin crawl, hit that like button. But more importantly, leave a comment. And if you haven't subscribed to the Unknown Files X yet, do it now because this story isn't over yet. The darkest parts are still coming, and trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Ring that bell and share this with someone who needs to hear it because stories like Sarah's, they don't end when the ride ends. They follow you just like Marcus followed us. We sat in that parking lot for 40 minutes. Sarah wouldn't get out and she wouldn't call the police. She kept saying the same thing. "You don't understand. He has friends. He has resources and he has my family." I asked what she meant, and that's when the real horror started. Marcus wasn't just controlling. He was systematic and strategic. He had spent 5 years building a cage so perfect that she didn't even know she was inside it. He had isolated her from her parents by convincing them she was mentally ill. He had manufactured evidence, emails sent from her account saying terrible things, photos edited to look like she was cheating, and medical records suggesting drug use. "He's a pharmacist," she said. "He knows how to create reality. He created a reality where I'm crazy, where I'm violent, and where I'm the abuser. Everyone believed him because he's charming and professional." She pulled out her phone again, then showed me her parents' last messages. "We love you, but we can't help you until you help yourself. Marcus is worried sick. Please get treatment." He had turned her own family into his surveillance network. Her friends had stopped calling because he had shown them proof of her instability. Her job had fired her after he called her boss with concerns about her erratic behavior. Now the cameras became constant, the rules became physical, and the management became mutilation. She showed me photos. I won't describe them in detail, but they were medical and surgical procedures she hadn't consented to, changes he had made to her body while she was sedated. Improvements, that's what he called them. The casts on her wrists weren't from him intentionally breaking them. They were from her trying to break free. She had tried to claw her way out of a locked bathroom 3 days ago when he had found her. He treated her and told her she was lucky. Her hands could have been amputated. That's why she was running. Not because she thought she could escape, but because she had to try, knowing fully well that all alternative was becoming nothing. The truck was still there. But now there were 2 of them. Another car had pulled up, dark Ford Edge with 2 men inside. I didn't recognize them, but Sarah did. He brought his brothers. Coercive control. That's what the experts call it. This abuse isn't just physical violence, but a systematic destruction with autonomy and identity of reality itself. Marcus wasn't just hurting Sarah. He was erasing her and replacing her with a version he could control completely. A version that smiled when he smiled, cried when he allowed it, existed only in the spaces he permitted. And the terrifying part? The part that keeps me up at night? Sarah was disappearing right in front of me. She spoke about herself in the past tense. I used to love painting. I used to have friends. And I used to be someone with big dreams. Just as she was about to tell me more, the truck's door opened. Marcus stepped out. He was smaller than I expected. He was average height, average build, and the kind of man you'd pass on the street and never remember. He walked toward my car with slow confidence. Not hurrying, not threatening, just approaching. That moment, Sarah stopped breathing. She literally held her breath, her eyes went wide, and her pupils dilated from pure animal fear, the response of prey that knows the predator has found its hiding spot. He tapped on my window, but I didn't roll it down. He smiled and then he held up his phone and showed me the screen. It was a video playing live. It was Sarah's parents' house, dark and quiet, but someone was moving inside like a shadow with a purpose. Tell her to check on her mother, he mouthed. Clear lip reading and no audio needed. Then I turned to Sarah. Told her what he said. She scrambled for her phone, dialed, no answer. She dialed again, still no answer. Then a text came through from her mother's number. We're fine. Go home. Marcus explained everything. We love you. But Sarah knew her mother's voice and her mother's patterns. That text wasn't from her mother. It was from Marcus, sent from her mother's phone, which meant he had someone there or he had been there before now. Sarah opened the car door. I grabbed her. Don't do this, I said. We can drive to the police. Please don't go. He'll kill them all, she said, crying furiously. Then she screamed again. He'll kill my parents and he'll make it look like I did it. He has the evidence ready. He's had it ready for years. This is what he does. This is how he wins. He doesn't just control me. He controls the story. And the story is that I'm crazy. That I'm violent. That I'm capable of anything. She stepped out of the car into the rain. Into the light. And slowly into his arms. He didn't grab her or force her. He only opened his coat and she walked into it. Like she was coming home. Like this was where she belonged. He wrapped his arms around her. He looked at me over her head and winked. Then he mouthed 3 words. Thank you, driver. They got in the truck, drove away, and the Ford followed. I sat there at the grocery store parking lot. At 4 in the morning. With an empty back seat and a fare that would never be paid. A story no one would believe and the image of a woman in my head, walking back into her own destruction because the alternative was destroying everyone she loved. I reported it. Of course I did. I called the police. Told them everything. The license plate I had memorized. The name Marcus. The description. The coercion and the threats against her parents. They took my statement. It was professional and polite. They ran the plate and it came back registered to a Marcus Hale. 43 years old. No criminal record. An active member of the community. Volunteer firefighter. Church deacon. His brothers were both police officers in a neighboring county. Earlier that day the police visited the house. Marcus answered the door and Sarah was there. Standing behind him and smiling. She told him she was fine. That she had been upset and overreacting. That her husband was wonderful and that she was getting help for her mental health issues. She showed them her wrists. Said she had fallen. That she was clumsy and she was grateful for such a patient, loving partner. The officers left. Case closed. There was no evidence of wrongdoing. Just a domestic dispute between a mentally ill woman and her concerned husband. I tried to follow up. Called the domestic violence hotline. They told me what I already knew. That Sarah had to want to leave. That she had to be ready and that until she made that choice, there was nothing anyone could do. And that coercive control I had earlier reported was hard to prove. There, I realized isolation was just the abuser's greatest weapon. Marcus had already won. But I couldn't let it go. So I started driving by their house. Not stalking but checking. The lights were always on. Cameras visible on every corner. Perfect lawn. This was just a perfect house that was turned to a perfect prison. Then, 3 weeks later, I got a ride request. Same area but different name. But when I pulled up, it was Sarah's mother, Eleanor. Eyes just as hollow as her daughter's. She got in and immediately started crying. "He's got her on complete lockdown now," she said. "After that night you tried to help her. He said she proved she couldn't be trusted. So now she's not allowed to leave the house. Not allowed to use phones. Not allowed to see anyone. He says it's for her own safety. That she's a danger to herself." We believed him because he showed us the videos. The ones of her screaming and breaking things. He also showed us videos of her threatening to kill him. But we didn't know he had been drugging her. That all those episodes weren't real. He was creating them. Filming them to build his case. She told me about a will. Marcus had convinced Sarah to sign over power of attorney. To change her life insurance. Add him to every account and make him the sole beneficiary, in case something happens to her. She had said at the time it sounded like love. But now it's sounding like preparation. Eleanor had tried to visit but Marcus wouldn't let her in. But there I was, wondering how she knew I was the driver. Then she said her daughter gave her my number and name. And told her she has been noticing my car around the area. She wants you to help her. Eleanor said she has been standing outside ordering Uber ride just to get me. But the name and car description was different. And she had canceled so many rides until she finally got me. "He's going to kill her," Eleanor said. "And he's going to make it look like suicide. An accident. Or her own madness. And no one will stop him. Because he's already told everyone she's unstable. Already shown the evidence. Already built the narrative. When she dies, people will say, 'How sad but not surprising.' They'll say she was trouble. He tried so hard to help her. And he'll inherit everything." I drove Eleanor to a lawyer's office. A domestic violence advocate. Someone who understood coercive control. Who knew that sometimes the most dangerous abuse leaves no bruises. Destroys no property. Makes no noise. Just slowly, systematically removes a person from existence. The lawyer took the case and started building a file. But these things take time. And Marcus had been planning for years. He was always 5 steps ahead. 2 months had passed. I kept driving. Kept watching and kept hoping. Then one night I got another request. Same pickup location. I almost didn't take it. Almost drove past. But something made me stop. Made me accept. But this time the passenger was Marcus. He got in the front seat. Deliberate and intimate. He wanted to talk. Wanted me to see him. To understand he still recognized me. "You're the driver," he said. "The one who tried to save my Sarah." I didn't answer. Just drove. Following the GPS to a destination I didn't recognize. "She told me about your conversation." His voice was soft and reasonable. Like the voice of a man explaining simple facts to a confused child. "This is about the lies she told you. About her condition. I wanted you to know the truth. To understand that I love her. That I've always loved her. That everything I do is for her protection." He showed me photos on his phone. Sarah in a hospital gown smiling. Giving thumbs up. "She is getting the help she needs," he said. "Residential treatment. Private facility and the best in the country. She asked me to send you these to thank you for caring. And to let you know she's safe now. Finally safe." But I noticed something. The photos were all from the same angle. Same background. Same lighting. Like they were taken in one session, was staged and shows clearly that Sarah wasn't in a facility at all. "Can I talk to her?" I asked. "Can I hear her voice?" Marcus's smile flickered. "She's not allowed to take outside contact. Doctor's orders. Her delusions. They fixate on certain people. People she thinks can rescue her. It's part of her illness. She creates these narratives. These are persecutory fantasies. You were in one of them. I'm sorry and I know you meant well. But you were part of the problem. Part of what made her sicker." We drove deeper into the woods. The GPS said we were 20 minutes from the destination. I didn't know what waited there. But I knew I didn't want to find out. I pulled over. I said I felt sick and needed air. Marcus didn't argue. Just sat there watching me with that patient smile. "You know," he said as I stood outside the car. Sarah fought for so long, so hard. But she's resting now. Finally resting. And soon she'll be at peace permanently. No more struggle. No more pain. I got back in the car and drove to the destination. It was a cabin with no neighbors. Then Marcus got out, turned back to me and held out some cash. "This is for your discretion," he said. "And thanks for your understanding," he added. "Some stories don't have heroes." He walked into the cabin. The lights came on, and I sat there. Engine running and my choices was spinning. I could call the police again, and tell them what he said. But they wouldn't believe me. I was just a driver, a stranger. But he was a deacon, and a firefighter who had brothers that were police officers. A man with no criminal record. A man with a mentally ill wife who pretends to be committed for her own safety. I could go in, break down the door and find Sarah. Save her and be the hero she thought I was. Or I could just drive away. Do my job and mind my business, accepting that some toxic relationships are too deep, too established, and too systematic to be broken by a stranger in a car. I chose option 2. I walked to the door. Knocked. No answer. I tried the handle. Unlocked it and I stepped inside. The cabin was warm, clean and organized, with medical equipment set up in the living room. IV stands, monitoring machines, a hospital bed, and in it was Sarah. But not the Sarah I remembered. This Sarah was sedated, tubes in her arms, eyes closed, breathing slow and steady but was perfectly managed. Marcus stood beside the bed, adjusting an IV drip. He didn't look surprised to see me, neither did he look angry. "She's dying," he said. Not quickly and didn't look suspicious, but slowly and naturally. "She is suffering from a rare neurological condition, but she's comfortable. I make sure she's comfortable. I manage her pain and everything about her." He turned to face me, and for the first time the mask slipped. Then I saw the faith of a man who to him has won so completely that there was nothing left to do but wait for the inevitable. "You want to save her?" he asked. "Call the police and tell them what you saw. But know this, I have 20 years of medical records, expert testimony, documentation of her episodes, her violence, her instability. I have 3 doctors who will testify that this is exactly what they expected, that her condition was terminal, that I kept her alive longer than anyone thought possible, that I was a devoted husband to the end. And you? You're a rideshare driver with a history of fixating on female passengers, imagining scenarios, and interfering in private matters. Who do you think they'll believe?" He was right. I knew he was right. But the system wasn't designed for this. Wasn't designed for invisible abuse, for coercive control, for men who managed their wives to death. But I had one thing he didn't expect. I had my phone recording the whole conversation, the admission and the confession. I held it up, showed him the red light, the timer and my evidence. His smile finally broke, replaced by something real. I saw fear in his eyes just for a moment. "That won't save her," he said. "Even if they arrest me and they believe you, she'll still die. She's too far gone. I've already won. The only question is, what happens to you?" He reached into his pocket. I flinched, but he just pulled out a signed check, dropped them on the bed beside Sarah's motionless hand. I didn't even bother to check how much was written on it. "Take it and drive away," he said. "Now walk away. Forget her, or stay and be a hero. Be whatever you think you are. But know that whatever you choose, she dies. And I win. I've always won. Because I understand something you don't. Love isn't about happiness. It's about control. And I control everything." I didn't drive away. I called 911, stayed on the line, gave the address and gave my name. I gave everything. The police and ambulance came. Sarah was taken to the hospital. Marcus was arrested. Not for murder yet, but for medical fraud. For practicing without a license. For the drugs in the IV. Small charges, he thought. Marcus made bail in 6 hours. But the recordings helped the investigating officers in rejecting his bail. They found what he had done to other women. 3 of them. Previous relationships. Previous management. Same death pattern that looked like accidents, suicides, and natural causes. Marcus had been perfecting his craft for 20 years. Sarah was just the latest, the longest lasting and the most managed. But she survived. That's the miracle. The doctors reversed the sedation, reduced the damages, although some of it permanent. She'll never walk normally again, never use her hands fully, never be the person she was. But she's alive and she's free. She's learning to be Sarah again. Marcus is awaiting trial. Multiple counts. The death penalty is on the table. But I don't think he'll get it. He's too smart. He'll probably plead, serve his time, get out and do it again. Because men like Marcus don't stop. They just get better at hiding and committing crimes. I still drive. Still pick up strangers and I still listen to their stories. But now I look closer and I ask more questions to make sure no one else disappears on my watch. Because that's what toxic relationships do. They don't just hurt the people in them but everyone who tries to help and everyone who cares. Never lets anyone scare you from going to the police whenever you are in danger. Never trust completely. The management will never really end if you keep quiet. Learn to manage yourself instead. Sarah sent me postcards last week. Just 3 words. Thank you, driver. I keep it on my dashboard. A reminder that some stories do have heroes. Even if they're just strangers in cars. Even if they can't save everyone. Even if the best they can do is bear witness, then that's refusing to look away. That's simply saying, I see you. I believe you. You're not crazy and you're not alone. Now if someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, coercive control, or any form of toxic relationship, help is available. Call the National Domestic Violence Hotline. Even when it feels impossible. Even when they've convinced you that you have nowhere to go. There are people waiting to help. People who understands. People who believe you. And if this story moved you, if Sarah's voice is still in your head, do what you can to make sure others hear it too. Like this video. Comment below with your thoughts. Subscribe to the Unknown Files X so you never miss a story that matters. Share this with someone who needs to know they're not alone. Because awareness is how we fight back. Listening is how we resist. And community is how we heal. This has been the Unknown Files X, where real stories, dark mysteries and hidden truths are told. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next file.